How's it going, everybody? I'm Ryan Scamenti from Career Services here at Five Towns College, and today is our Get Hired Employer Buzz Series event, and we have our guest today, Ms. Kayla Cove from the Paramount in Huntington. So what we do with these things is basically we get people who work in the industry in various capacities and talk to them about their background, what got them into the type of business they're into, what they do, and how to kind of navigate through that. And I think that's important for guys like yourselves who are just about to get out into the working world and kind of see what things are. So specifically today, we're going to be dealing with booking, live music venues, stuff like that. And so if everybody can just say hello to Ms. Kayla Cove. Hey, Kayla.
Hello.
Thanks, guys. So where are you from originally?
I was born and raised on Long Island. I'm from Rocky Point, New York.
Okay.
Way out east.
Out east.
Yeah.
And so were you always a music person? Did you get involved? Always?
Always been a music person.
What was your first concert?
God, my first concert was...
The embarrassing one. Give us the embarrassing one first.
Embarrassing enough. Yeah. Never Shot Never, Hello Goodbye, and Cash Cash before they were an EDM band at the Crazy Donkey.
Wow, okay.
That's a wild show.
Yeah, mine was Kiss and Ted Nugent, but we'll just talk about that another
show.
time. So when did you really kind of start figuring out like this is kind of what you wanted to do? Was it one of those like teenage moments of like being at the show and being like this is like understanding you wanted to be involved on a certain level, or how did that work for you? I
didn't figure out that I wanted to be involved in booking until a lot later in the game.
Okay.
But it was definitely like one of those like being at a concert and just like realizing like this is what I want to surround myself with for the rest of my life.
Awesome.
I was in a band for a very short period of time in senior year of high school, and I booked our first show at Webster Hall at the studio.
It's not a bad first show.
It was pretty sick.
Yeah.
And you know, we got there, we did everything for it, did a lot of promoting and stuff, and finally, it was time to get on stage and do everything. And I got on stage and I performed and I got off stage, and it was just one of those moments where I was like, this was the worst thing I've ever done. I don't ever want to be on the stage ever again.
Sure.
And it was just like, I so much more preferred being behind the scenes and like doing all the back work for it and like
absolutely
getting prepared for everything like that. It was just,
that's like something that like people don't think about, because so many people want to be performers and get involved, and you don't like so many people don't realize there's this world of opportunity behind the scenes that you can have these like really interesting, innovative like careers doing all these other things. So that's awesome.
Yeah, it was a weird experience, but it was definitely something very needed, because it propelled me in the right direction for for what I'm doing now, at least.
So where did you go to school and what did you study?
I went to school at Full Sail University. I studied music business. I took the accelerated program, so I graduated with my bachelor's at 19.
That was going to be my next question. I saw that that you actually got a bachelor's by 19. How did you do that?
A lot of work.
No sleeping. It was
no sleep.
A lot of coffee.
Lots of coffee. Lots of Red Bull. I did basically it was 2 classes worth of, or like a semester's worth of 2 classes each month. So it was just a lot of work. You couldn't miss any classes. There was no hours or anything that you could really take for yourself.
Right.
You had to be at every single class, or else you were not passing that class.
That sounds exhausting.
Yeah. It was exhausting, but it was just like, I felt like it was a good experience because it really prepared me for the real life industry. And it was just like, it's always go time. Like you're always doing something. There's not really ever time to like sit down and enjoy yourself. It's just you gotta be working hard.
Totally. So I was just talking about this with a student today. Like, I think, and you guys probably know this, when you're in school, especially for something that's like an entertainment music thing, you may start off thinking like, oh, I want to go there for this reason, but then as you kind of progress through it and you're exposed to all these different things, your mind starts to change a little bit about it, and like you focus more on this. So when you initially went, like, what was the difference between the beginning and the end as far as you thinking, knowing like kind of what you wanted to do? Like, how did that work out?
I started off pursuing a career in A&R, actually. Okay. I used to do workshops with the vice president of A&R of Atlantic Records, Steve Robertson.
At school or?
At school.
Okay.
It was like a monthly workshop that they did.
Oh, that's awesome.
It was really great. I learned so much from him. And it really, at the time, seemed like it was something that I wanted to do, and I was really excited about it, and I was doing really well at it. And then after I graduated, I just kind of fell into the booking industry and working in venues, and it's just like a whole new love. so I just kind of moved in that direction instead.
Did you do any of that stuff in Florida when you were down there, or was it when you came back and came up here?
Booking I only did up here in New York.
So what were some of the early struggles you found once you graduated and started working?
It actually took me 6 months after I graduated to find a job.
Okay.
It was very, very, very upsetting.
Were you like going out there every day, like sending out the resume every day?
I was sending out resumes. I was trying to talk to people. It was just like, for what I pictured myself in, it was really hard to find a way to like kick in that door and like get in there. Until finally a position opened up at a venue. I worked at McDonald's for 6 months after I graduated.
Do you think there was a switch in you, or just an opportunity came about?
It's just an opportunity came about, and I just, I took it and ran with it.
That's awesome. What did you feel like, as far as like transitioning from like, I'm a focused student, clearly you graduated at 19, like, transitioning from like a student to like a worker, how did that work out for you? Was it pretty seamless, or did you feel like you had to think about things a little differently that way as well? It
was pretty seamless because it was a lot of trying to get things done on a deadline. The only other difference really was, I guess, the difference in networking, as it is like, when you network as a student, you're just like trying to get yourself out there and trying to pump yourself up as much as possible and be like, please give me a job. And then like when you're actually working in the industry and you're at that job and you're trying to do something and you're trying to network to get clients and stuff, it's a whole other ball game, because you're still trying to hype yourself up, but now you're trying to hype up the company, and it's just like there's a lot more, it's a different way to steer the conversation almost.
Yeah. Okay.
So it was different in that aspect, but it was just like, it's still like, timelines and, you got to get this done and this has to be done by this time. And so it's, it wasn't too bad.
What were some of the tasks you had to do in that first job, as far as like, it's my entry-level job, my first job in the industry? What were some of the things you had to start doing?
I started off as a marketing assistant.
Okay.
So some of the tasks that I was given was creating a street team, and getting, local ground promotions out, and then figuring out like what websites we should be advertising on, and doing social media posts, and trying to figure out like what's the best time to post on this site, how many posts should we be posting in a day. Just trying to get like the groundwork in. I did a lot of the website stuff there as well.
Okay. Was that what you were hired to do, or was it the type of thing where they were like, they saw your skill sets and kind of were like, oh, you can do this, maybe you can do,
Yeah, it was more like I was hired kind of as like a marketing assistant, but I ended up doing everything in the venue anyway.
That kind of happens.
Yeah, so it was just my skills were utilized.
That's fair. That's totally fair. As far as you worked for Fly South Music for a while, is that right?
I worked there for 4 months for an internship.
Okay. And so it was, I saw something in your bio about the Artist Development Initiative that is still happening, that was something you had something to do with. Yeah. What exactly was that, and can you kind of walk us through what it was, how you were involved in it, and how it's still going?
Right, so Artist Development Initiative is called 3300 in Climbing. It's an initiative that Full Sail actually started, and came to me and 2 other students to interview and just try and get it going from the ground up. And they wanted some people who were really involved with the school and really involved with the student base, and just like, had the best skills. And then, so we all got together and we built this company from the ground up, creating the website, all the social media, figuring out the submission process for it. And just like figuring out how things would work, and like trial error, and working with different artists in the industry. So basically what the initiative is that it's a 6-month period where an artist gets signed to the initiative. And then for those 6 months, the artist gets materials from each class in the music business program. Okay. So we had like a merchandising class, we had a distribution class, we had record label class. So it's people, we created basically like a curriculum for this artist and incorporated it into the students' work. So the students were getting hand-on experience working with an actual artist, and the artist was coming out with free materials that they could use that were good enough for them to promote. That's awesome. Help boost up their career.
And that's something that's still going on now?
Yes.
That's way cool to have been a part of something at its inception like that.
Yeah, it was really fun. It was really frustrating, but it's really satisfying to know that it's still doing well today. Even, you know, I've been at a Full Sail since 2015. Okay. So about 3 years now.
That's great. So after your first job, you became a talent buyer, is that right? Was that the second?
Yeah, so I went from marketing assistant to talent buyer.
Okay, that's a little bit of a leap.
Basically what happened was my boss left just because he wanted to pursue other options in his career. Okay. And they felt that I had enough experience and enough drive to be able to take on the position myself.
Actually, if you don't mind, for those people that don't know, like, can you explain what a talent buyer is and does?
So a talent buyer at a venue is somebody who essentially buys talent. So you reach out to agents, you reach out to artists specifically if it's like a lower level artist, and you offer them a set amount of money to come in and play your venue. So that was a very different experience for me, just from starting out where I started as A&R. It wasn't really. It was more of like, hey, let me come work with me and I'll get you signed to this record label. And now it's just like, I'll pay you to come play my venue. Like, so it was definitely a different experience, but it was a lot of fun because you get to meet all these different characters and get to be involved in so many different things. And it's cool because you get to look at the logistics and the statistics of like how venues actually figure out like who they want to book at the venue and why they want to book this person at the venue, and you know, how much money people cost, and like the writers and the contracts.
Stuff that people never think about unless you're involved on that
absolutely.
level.
You know, people just think it's just like, you know, you go to a show, band plays, and they get paid.
They pay rent, they pay this, but they don't realize like how broken down it actually is.
Right, you know, just dealing with settlements and like the expenses that get taken out and the whole hospitality aspect behind it too. It's a whole thing, but it's a very interesting process and it's very cool.
So how long did you do that? It was at a place called Emporium, right? That was here on the island?
Yes, it was out in Patchogue.
And how long did you do that for?
I did that for a year and a half, I believe. Okay. Unfortunately, I had to leave due to issues with management. Okay, these things happen. Which does happen, but it was a pretty amicable, you know, thing. It wasn't like there was any like physical issues or anything like that. It was just like I needed to move on and go to some place else where I felt like I could propel myself up in the career. Like, you know, I was already the talent buyer at this club. Where else am I going to go? Yeah. So, you know, it was just my time to move on and do something else that will further myself.
Totally. So how did your relationship with the Paramount start? How did you start working with them?
One of my friends actually, she got offered the position at the Paramount. That's my current position today, but she was already working at ICM in the city, which is a booking agency for people who don't know.
A pretty large one,
yeah. Yeah, and so she knew that I was trying to get out of the Emporium, and she sent over my resume to them and was just like, hey, like, I can't do this, but like, here's Kayla, like she's my best friend, like we worked together on things forever. She was one of my interns at 3300 for a while, so we went to college together. Awesome. And she also lives here on the island, so it was just like we were always together, we always, you know, job opportunities with each other. You know, I would give her one job, she'd give me another job. It was just, you know, always that dynamic.
I think people don't appreciate like the whole, I was just talking about this with Christy before, like the network and how important that network is, and even starting in school and how like that grows over time. I mean, I still network with people I went to school with 15 years ago.
You're as strong as your team, and as strong as the people that you, you're as strong as the people that you surround yourself with. And I mean, I do have a lot of skills in the music industry, but like a lot of it is who you know and who those people know. And you know, sometimes people, you may have a great resume, but they don't know who you are, and they'd rather take somebody who has the recommendation from a really a great agent who, you know, it's just one of those things. So that was kind of how I got the job. It was just more of like a, hey, I can't do it.
Yeah,
she can though.
So can you maybe walk us through a typical day for you? How does it work?
Typical day, it really varies throughout the weeks. A lot of my job is based off of Live Nation and how Live Nation works. So like if Live Nation's closed, sometimes I can't get things done because I do a lot of submitting artists and contract markups and writer markups and just like sending things back and forth to them and making sure that they have the correct information, that we have the correct information. It's a lot of communication with different people to make sure that we're all on the same page. So when the show happens, everything's fine and kosher, and we can move on. But it's just coming in, checking out my voicemails, checking out my emails, and getting whatever the main booking manager needs done, and then working on contracts for the rest of the month. And it doesn't seem too glamorous, but it's a lot of fun.
Okay. Well, so the contract thing, have you had any experience with that? Because that's a different kind of world if you have never experienced it before.
Yeah, absolutely.
How does that work?
So we'll usually, the required paperwork that we need per show is a contract, a writer, and a W-9. W-9 obviously for tax purposes.
Sure.
The writer
for food and drink.
Hospitality, technical requirements. And the contracts is just listing out the deal that we made with either the agent or Live Nation, and making sure that everybody has the correct numbers, so at settlement there's no disagreements or anything like that. And just like going through and redlining and like taking out things that don't make sense, and just like certain things in a rider that people can include will just like completely void the rider, and just like making sure that catch certain things, because a lot of agencies will put like small print on stuff and try and get like extra money out of the shows, and it's just just catching these things and making sure that everything is what we agreed to. And a lot of times there's a lot of differences in those things. It's a lot of reading and a lot of detailing, and just making sure that everything's correct.
That's crazy.
But it's fun. It seems a bit tedious, but it's just like you get to really be involved, and it's just like cool seeing the back end of things, of just like, this is how certain agencies work, and this is what they require, and this is what they need, and this is what we're going to tell them absolutely not.
Sure. So one of the things that you're involved with is booking local artists that support national artists. Is that correct? So, explain a little bit of how that process works. Do you listen to lots of new music and go to a lot of concerts to find artists to book, or how does it work?
I like to go to a lot of local shows, just to see new upcoming artists and see how they see how they are with their fan base and everything like that. Oftentimes I like to find an artist before they realize they're good, because it's one of those things. It's really satisfying to be like, hey, you're really awesome. You deserve this opportunity. Come play at my venue. And it's just like such a good feeling being able to work with like local artists, because they appreciate it so much more.
They do, yeah.
And so just like creating those relationships with people, and like it's more of it's more family than it is business at this point. It's just like the people who I book and the people who I reach out to, I try and create more of like a friendship relationship with them, just because it's important.
Yeah, very much so.
But yeah, I like to go to a lot of local shows. I get a lot of submissions through the Paramount email and everything. So
you actually have to listen.
Yeah, I have a database that I put everything in, and I listen to it and try and decide like where it would be good, because we have 2 stages that I book on at the Paramount. I have the downstairs founders room stage, and then I have the main stage where I do the support slots.
Gotcha.
So just deciding if it's more of like a founders room show, or if it's a good support slot, and if they're ready, if it's somebody who I should be watching, and like give them a little more time to grow, and just it's a lot of listening to new music and being involved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there a specific skill set that you think is beneficial to somebody who might be interested in getting involved in booking?
Organization.
Okay.
My main thing that I use is Excel and spreadsheets. That's all I do. It's my favorite thing in the entire world. I love Excel way too much.
That's good to know. Okay.
It's just like it keeps everything, because there's so many moving parts to booking.
Right.
So you need to keep everything organized. You need to know like what are you missing, what do you need, like what's going on, when's the show, like what's these budgets, and it's just like if everything's in like a completed file where you can just like look stuff up, it just makes things so much easier.
Totally.
So being organized and being conscious of being organized is a huge skill set for that.
Okay. How much more time do we have, guys? Does somebody know? Anybody? 5 minutes? We want to take some questions. I have more questions, but I definitely want to take some questions from the audience. So does anybody have any questions for Kayla? Don't be shy. You guys look great right now. Everybody looks great. Everybody looks really great. No questions. Okay. Christy, do you have a question? Yeah.
I have a lot of questions.
Yeah,
Sure.
go for it.
What types of jobs are right now for our students at the Paramount?
We're definitely looking for interns currently, and we're always hiring in the venue for box office ushers, VIP waitresses to work in our founder's room, and we're doing a couple of marketing things right now, so I'm sure other things will come up with that. But right now we're trying to focus on getting interns in the room.
And what do you look for in interns as potential candidates? What are the key things that you see that really makes someone pop from others in competition?
I like somebody who's passionate. You know, you can read some stuff off of a resume and it's like, yeah, you do have the experience and everything like that, but I myself learn better by doing. So I like to give the people who are just really excited about the music industry and just want to learn, and that's my biggest thing is like being excited, being just wanting to be involved.
Sure.
Those are the people who I'm looking for, is the people who have some sort of head on their shoulders that just like want to get in, want to learn everything, that are just super eager and ready to go, because that's what we need. That's what
Absolutely.
You know, the whole industry needs, is we need people who are eager and ready to go.
Yeah.
So that's a huge thing that I look for.
Those are great questions, Christy. You have more?
Well, I have a lot more, but I want to give it to the students. I mean,
Anybody have a
does
question
any
out there?
students have any questions that
Question-free
they have
zone. It's a
about
question-free
booking,
zone.
how to get in the industry, what's the difference between venues and agencies as far as booking?
She's giving them all to you guys.
I know I'm giving.
I have a question.
Yes.
As an artist who's just coming into the game and who wants to get exposure and be able to play shows, like what's my first step in trying to get a show at the Paramount?
I think your first step is to, well, have you played shows before, or are you just like trying to get in?
Yeah, I've performed before,
Right.
but not at a place like the Paramount.
Right. I think your best bet is to reach out, make sure that you have appropriate materials, like a really good live performance video, a nice press photo, a good bio, just a nice put together EPK, and then moving on from there and making sure that you have a good fan base behind you, because we do like to give artists opportunities, but another thing that we look for also is ticket sales. So if you can have a decent amount of people coming to your show, that's something that we're ready to go and we'll absolutely support you.
Okay, let's talk about the latter. What if you don't have those supporters yet?
Right. I think that in order, it's just like, you know, being involved in your local community and reaching out to other musicians and like making sure that you're going to their shows and creating those relationships with people, because that's what's really important, is like you can go out and play your music, you know, for however many hours, but if you're not creating those relationships in the local community, nobody's going to come see your band.
Yeah.
That was a great question. Any general advice you'd give to someone looking to start working in the music business and doing in and around what you do, or just working it in general? Just any general advice? Because some of these guys are going to be here for a little bit longer, but some people are getting out real soon.
Right,
So
right.
any advice you can give them?
Nothing is too small for you. You know, sometimes a really small opportunity, whether it be volunteering for a music festival or doing a street team or doing box office at a venue, can still be important steps for you to take in order to get into the music industry, because once people know who you are, it makes it easier for you to show your face. And again, it's creating that networking and creating those relationships so people know who you are and that you do good work and that you're focused and ready to go, and you know, eventually you can move yourself up that way. Other ways to do it is just stay persistent and make sure that your resume looks good and make sure that you are proficient in speaking, and just, you know, talk your way through it. So.
Great. Any more questions, anybody? Yes. Oh, the lady in the back first, and then you, sir.
I just have a comment.
Yeah.
From a business perspective,
Sure.
You obviously have a platform, what you want to do your business in. And last February, my niece got married at the Paramount.
That's
And I have
awesome.
a very large family. It was one of the best weddings I was ever at. And a lot of that
thank you.
had to do with the venue.
Yeah.
It was amazing. So from a business perspective, I think it's fantastic that the people who own the Paramount don't just think, okay, we're only a place where bands can come and play and we have an
Yeah.
audience. They've opened up the doors business-wise and found another stream of revenue,
Yeah.
which is fantastic. And it was great. It really
All right.
was.
Thank you so much.
Did you have a question up here, sir?
I did.
Yeah. Oh, there's a mic there for you.
Yeah, no, these all have to do with money. So if you don't want to answer them, you don't have to.
I'll let you know.
But couple of questions. In other words, students who are getting out of college and
Right.
looking to enter that industry, what's a reasonable expectation for them to be able to earn in that industry to begin? That's number one question. Number two
Okay.
is, as an artist, if they're a band or a singer-performer, how much does the Paramount pay them?
It typically depends on the budget of the show for the artist. I'm going to work backwards. So a lot of our support slots, the budget is dictated by Live Nation, so it's whatever they give us. Typically runs between $250 to $500, and sometimes there's shows that the artists just don't get paid for, which is, you know, in my eyes, very unfortunate because I want to make sure that every artist is getting paid for what they do because it's a job. That being said, Paramount absolutely doesn't do pay-for-play or anything like that. So typically for support artists and everything, it's $200 to $500. But that doesn't mean that, you know, people should be pushing for more money in different venues. It really depends on how many tickets you sell and how worth it you are. For people who are just starting out in the industry, I think the typical hourly average is about 15 an hour right now. Depending on where you are, it's like 12 to 15. I know ICM starting out, desk jobs are 15 an hour. So I wouldn't take anything less than 10.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Guys, we are actually out of time, so Kayla, thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you.
Appreciate all you guys for coming, so if you can just give her a round of applause, that would be awesome. Thank you, everybody. Thanks. That was great.
Thanks.
Way
Thank
cool.
you. Was it awful?
No, that was great.
Did I
You
do
great. No,
terrible?
that was great. You did a great job. I like being over-prepared. I had questions I didn't get to, so that was perfect.
That's okay.
Yeah.
No worries.
But that was good. Work for you?
Yeah, that works
Cool.
for me. That was
Awesome.
great.
No, I think that was great. Like, some of the questions they asked were awesome.
Yeah, no, I was really happy about it.
Sweet. Well, let's go get your stuff.
Yeah.
And let me try to get out of this chair without dying.
Yeah, same.